19. The Missing Key. After agreeing to meet at a well-known Italian eatery, Sierra dressed for her dinner meeting with a combination of extreme anxiety and abject resignation. The resignation came from a realization that it was useless to hide any more from a man as powerful as Gabriel Faulkner. For months she had taken measures to cut herself off from him, and he had managed to get her new unlisted telephone number. Furthermore, if she moved again, she had no doubt he would soon track her down. Curiosity had led her to discover things better left unknown, and she hoped that in this case curiosity was not going to kill this cat. "He has a fondness for you," Mrs. Allen once said. "Well, that remains to be seen," Sierra muttered as she carefully applied eyeliner to her eyelids. Gabriel was waiting for Sierra when she arrived at the restaurant, and after being seated, he spoke to the waitress without inquiring as to what his companion wanted to eat. "I took the liberty," he explained, as if in apology. "It is extremely busy here at this hour, and I want to eat before the sun goes down. Frankly, I'm famished." "That's all right," Sierra murmured. "Now why am I here?" she added. "First of all, I want you to tell me why you bolted without any notice, and then why you refused to accept any contact even from Nell," he commanded, and then waited expectantly for Sierra to reply. "Go on," he urged. "I am determined to hear the truth from you, so don't use evasions or false scenarios. I will know immediately." "And you think you know me that well?" Sierra inquired belligerently. "You are a person who habitually tells the truth. When you are evading questions, your eyes give you away," he answered. "I will take that as a compliment even if it's not an intended one," Sierra retorted. "I do propose to always be truthful, though sometimes I fail," she added, her voice going faint. "Then this time you will not fail," Gabriel commanded. "The truth out with it, Sierra, all of it. What dastardly, nefarious things have you discovered to make you avoid me at all costs?" Sierra took a large intake of breath in her lungs to gain courage. "Okay," she replied. "Since you asked, I think you are arrogant, deceitful, a liar, and your friend Mr. Vanderholt is as bad. And in fact, I think he may be a criminal or worse, and I think you know it." Gabriel Faulkner gazed solemnly at the woman seated beside him for a full measure of minutes before he spoke in a soft, silky tone. "That is a disappointingly uncomplimentary indictment of me. And what makes you think Granger is a criminal? I imagine that includes me as well." "I don't know what you are, Mr. Faulkner," Sierra retorted, "except that you are powerful and rich. I suspect that you can do anything you want and get away with it. Bribe judges in every country there is. Whatever. You see too many Godfather movies," Gabriel laughed. His cheerful response confused Sierra, and she blushed, dropping her gaze to settle on the rolled-up napkins on the table. "All right. What specific crime are you accusing old Holt and me by connection of committing?" "It does not matter what I think, Mr. Faulkner. I have told you why I left, and I have no intentions of spreading any accusations. So why belabor the subject?" she answered. "You will not spar with me, Sierra. Gabriel warned, his voice growing louder, fueled obviously by his growing anger. Sierra remembered that tone. Gabriel Faulkner was a man used to ordering his empire, and he did not like to be told no. He was glaring at her, and she returned the eye contact boldly. It was the first time in their relationship that Sierra did not experience a sense of vulnerability in the man's presence. She flexed the muscles of her newfound strength. "Very well, since you insist," she began. There was a box of passports with Mr. Vanderholt's picture on all of them. Each one had a different name, or I think they did, because most of them I couldn't even make out because of the foreign language. I found them in large luggage and clothes, men and women's. They were in the basement in one of those rooms that you claim not to have, for one thing," Sierra blurted out in a rambling manner before she could think of the repercussions of her outburst. Before coming to this dinner, she had resolved not to reveal her knowledge of the contents in the basement room of the lodge. At all costs, she knew it was unwise for this man to know how much she had discerned from visiting the cellar of his lodge. However, her bravado fled as she watched the man's face. His expression seemed to change from impatience to indifference. But Sierra was not deceived. She could see that his jaw was rigid, and there was a slight twitching that was barely discernible if she had not been staring at him so intently. The man was literally grinding his teeth. "What rooms did I claim not to have?" he asked, raising his brow in what seemed to Sierra to be a sinister gesture. She cast her gaze away before answering. "You said there were no dungeons, but on the other side of that monster, and I might add horrible-looking brass door, there were 2 rooms with cots, chemical toilets, wash bowls, the whole schmear." "It was the modern version of a cell," she replied. "Dungeons," she added accusingly. "And these rooms are suspect why?" he inquired in that hateful, mocking way that never failed to bring out the combatant in her, even if it was foolish to do so. "Were they locked? Was there any evidence of torture, foul play?" "No, and you know it," she responded scathingly. "But there were women's clothes and shoes and suitcases and books, a purse that had Poppy Vanderholt's identification in it. Where is Poppy, anyway?" "Everyone seems to have a different story, and I know, coming from the horse's mouth, that she does not have a sick mother, or any mother at all, for that matter." "Where do you think she is?" Gabriel asked, his voice deadly quiet. "I don't know," Sierra replied, shaken by his tone. She was extremely sorry now for her outburst. Fear for her life had returned with a vengeance, despite the sunny day and the presence of so many diners in the crowded room. Unexpectedly, Gabriel reached his hand across the table to where Sierra was fiddling with a rolled-up napkin. She flinched as if something hot had touched her. The man clasped her hand more firmly, and with the other hand raised her head, forcing her to look at him. "Don't squirm so, Sierra," he commanded. "No one is going to hurt you, but I want you to pay attention and hear clearly what I'm telling you. Poppy is all right. In a few days I will introduce you to her and put an end to this nonsense, if you allow me." "Where is she?" Sierra repeated the question, but with a sense of relief. "That I can't tell you because I honestly don't know. But Holt speaks with her daily, and her assignment looks like it will finally be coming to an end." "Assignment?" Sierra queried in surprise. Poppy is a photographic correspondent for an international news media. That is, she was. So was Holt a number of years back. Both retired, or semi-retired, I should say, because occasionally something comes up, Gabriel explained. Usually Holt is the one that takes off, like a hound after a fox, and disappears in the bush for a few months. Though to be fair, neither seemed to be able to refuse the itch to explore a new bit of newsworthy excitement every so often. This was one of those times for Poppy. Given the unstable government where I suspected that she was going, I took great exception to Holt allowing her to leave. I thought at least he should have accompanied her. I had no intention of letting him off the hook until she is safely back here where he belongs, Gabriel stated forcefully. So why the secrecy, the basement, the noises, the locked doors? It doesn't make any sense, Sierra asked in confusion. That is a long and somewhat complicated story, Gabriel answered. I see, so I'm not a need-to-know basis. Okay, I'm fine with that. Explanation accepted, discussion closed, Sierra replied sharply. I don't think so, Gabriel replied dryly, gazing at her with a sardonic expression in his dark eyes. No, I'm fine with it, Sierra insisted. No, you are not satisfied, Gabriel contradicted, and I think the reason is that you do not trust me. Very well, he said with a sigh. I will accept that for now, but I want you to listen to what I tell you and try to believe I am telling you the truth, Gabriel persisted, still holding fast to Sierra's hand. Will you extend me that courtesy? Sierra did not respond, and he continued. Please understand that when a correspondent goes on an assignment, it can often be in dangerous territory and may involve dangerous situations for the correspondent. More often than not, and especially in Holt's case, passports are needed to minimize the risk. Often it is better to be an obscure pipeline or masonry worker or even a citizen of the country. Anything except papers that say the man or woman is an American news correspondent. They are considered as spies in virtually all third world countries. Like undercover, Sierra injected. Well, at least inconspicuous. He answered. Needless to say, communications must be kept secure. Hence, the situation that was in the unused portion of my house. I had the space. It took only a little carpentry work, and Holt and Poppy had their network set up. It was never an inconvenience for me to allow them use of my cellar, and I might add, the disclosure of their location has never been breached until a certain little detective became curious. Gabriel grinned sardonically at Sierra. Believe me, better sleuths than you have tried to shut down Holt's network. You make it sound like he's some kind of James Bond, Sierra said. Did I shut it down? No, he admitted, but you aren't far from the mark. When I use the word semi-retired, I mean from news correspondent. Holt is still active in numerous humanitarian efforts around the world. He and Poppy were some of the first in their university days to plan and stage demonstrations. World relief, human rights, they keep that quite busy. At that moment, the food arrived and ended the discussion. Gabriel attacked his steak with relish, and Sierra dived into her mushroom-stuffed manicotti with more appetite than she knew she had. And after a short time, Gabriel looked at his dinner companion, enjoying her pasta, and remarked, I knew you particularly liked pasta. Here they serve some of the best Italian food I've eaten outside of Italy. he explained. Yes, it is very good, she agreed. So are we friends again, he asked. I wouldn't go that far, she retorted caustically. What now? Gabriel inquired irritably, placing his fork on his plate and leaning back to scowl at Sierra. You lied, she responded. I don't call people who lie my friends, because they cannot be trusted. I lied, he queried, raising that mocking brow again. Poppy's situation was not mine to divulge. Surely you can understand my position. It was not only that. You said that I was to prepare and host a business conference, and then I go to all that trouble. I practically give myself ulcers, heart failure, all kinds of stress-induced ailments, and then I read in the paper that you are hosting a business conference, one that you do annually, mind you, at Biltmore Estate. And funny thing is, it coincides with the one supposedly you were having at the lodge. She challenged, her fork poised dramatically, pointing in his direction to refute her statement. You're right, he conceded, but don't think that I am going to apologize. I thought the end justified the means. It was the only way I could think of keeping you from leaving. I knew almost from the beginning, he continued, that I wanted you in my life, but when you turned all of my offers down, I knew that keeping you at the lodge was the only way that I could get you to stay in my life. No, don't interrupt, he interjected as she opened her mouth to sputter in outrage. Hear me out before you start berating me again. I could see when you refused to go that first morning that you belonged there. I don't know if I ever really belonged in that rock pile, but you did. Everywhere I looked, I could see where you had been. Then you found that box of old pictures of my grandmother in the attic, he continued. Nell told me about the dream you had when you first came to the lodge. She said that you told her that you dreamed you saw her grandmother. I do not give a shred of credence to ghost stories, but my cousin does, and she was quite adamant that we were connected, as she put it. That little pillow of my mother's in the library, went on, not giving Sierra a chance to interrupt, and all the other things of hers you must have brought down from the attic. You had them strewn all around. It seemed right to me that you were there changing everything. It made me want to be there too. I had a sense of being home. I wasn't aware that I needed that anymore, but there it was. I wanted to keep you any way I could, so no apology, just the end justifying the means excuse. Please, Gabe, Sierra protested, uncomfortable with this revelation. Shh, let me finish, Sierra. Gabriel cut her off. Indulge me in this. She nodded mutely, her eyes cast down. I know that I purposely misled you about the business conference. My intention was that after the place was cleaned up and furnished, and when the weather was warm enough and the gardens in bloom, I would have a gala to introduce you to my friends, and them to you. Everything is just as you left it, by the way, even the few personal things you overlooked when you left, he added. Well, that wasn't the only lie, Sierra challenged, resisting the effect his words were having on her emotions. It had taken Sierra months to build up an immunity to even the memory of this man. She was not ready to let go of the distrust and anger to melt away in a moment of time. You pretended to believe me about the noises, and then you deliberately did that charade when we went to the basement. What did you expect, that I wouldn't try any of those locked doors that you said didn't exist? I wasn't trying to lie to you, Gabriel countered. I took you to the basement to remove your fears, to give you some natural and explainable reasons for them. Of course I knew that old Holt was in the house without your knowledge, but I have known the man most of my life, and I would trust him with my life. His nocturnal visits did not concern me. My concern was that he might charm you away from me during the daytime, he remarked with a sardonic smile, meant, Sierra was sure, to charm her out of her distrust of his motives. Fat chance of that, she remarked cryptically. The man is the rudest man I ever encountered in my life. I'm afraid I was responsible for that, Gabriel admitted. When I discovered how young and I might add beautiful you are, I broke a vow I made to myself that I would not speak to the man again until he brought Poppy back home safely. I broke that vow because of you being alone at the lodge. I'm well aware of Holt's so-called charm with women, and I had some strong words to say to my friend on the subject. Well, I met him before I met you, so I don't think anything you said had anything to do with his lack of manners, Sierra argued. In fact, he was nicer to me later on. Gabriel responded, as if clearing his throat. And I have no intentions of following any of the other women by succumbing to his, as you put it, so-called charm. Mrs. Allen told me all about him and your wives, she added. Gabriel stared at Sierra for what seemed to her an eternity, and then continued blandly. In any event, we decided that the rodent problem had to be dealt with at any length, and it would distract your attention, because when you were being disturbed by the night noises, I told Holt that he had to dismantle his operation and find somewhere else for his communications. He was agreeable, but it took weeks to get a suitable place, Gabriel continued. The night you followed us down to the cellar, we were moving the radio equipment to his barn through the passageway. He had managed to get most of the work done during the noise and bustle of the cellar cleanup, and I wanted to see how much was accomplished. Why didn't you just come in and make yourself at home? After all, it is your house, Sierra asked pointedly. I was trying to give you space. I had hopes you would miss me, he smiled, a wry grimace as he paused and gave Sierra a reproachful glance before he resumed. I really only had a few hours, as I had to be in San Francisco for a meeting the following morning. I slept at Holt's. I see, Sierra murmured. Do you, Sierra? He asked softly. Do you see how sorry I am that you were frightened? I was actually trying to achieve the opposite result. Can you see at all how much I want you in my life? How much I want us to be friends? More than friends, if I am honest. But for now, I will settle for what I can get. Please, Gabriel, Sierra protested. Please what? He insisted. Please leave me alone. Please don't expect me to believe a word that you say. Please let me have a few days to think. What? You certainly know how to put a girl on the spot, Sierra laughed, in spite of herself. At her moment, her mind was a jumble of all the things that he was mentioning. I'm a direct man in my business. I have to know the bottom line. So just tell me what your bottom line is. Do you believe what I have told you? He asked. Yes, Sierra answered without hesitation. Can we be, if not lovers, at least friends? He asked, with a mischievous glint in his dark eyes. Yes, I think so, she answered. Good, he replied in satisfaction. So when can I see you again? You are a fast worker, Sierra laughed in amusement. Yes, I am, he agreed. Please answer the question. Call me, she replied demurely. You have my number. Fair enough, Gabriel responded triumphantly. Gabriel did call. He not only called, but he sent flowers, gifts, and offers of dinner with chick flick movies at bonus persuasion. He called so prolifically that Sierra had to beg him to stop. I don't want to stop, he replied. I'm having the time of my life. I travel so much and spend a lot of time in shopping malls all over the world. Now I can enjoy finding things to send you. Did you like the scarf I sent you from China? Yes, I did. It was beautiful, Sierra answered honestly. But that's not the point. I don't need all this stuff, and you don't need to be spending your money on me. I have it to spend, Sierra, Gabriel chided her solemnly. Indulge me in this. If you would take me up on any of my proposals to spend time with me, I wouldn't resort to transatlantic phone calls or gifts. I want to spend more time with you. I don't relish being flown to wherever you are to have dinner with you, she argued. I have a job. I am a West Virginia country girl, and your life is a bit out of my league. All right, then. What if I say meet with me if I'm someplace close? In Chattanooga? In Nashville? Or Raleigh? I will send a car to pick you up. Try Charleston, Sierra suggested, humoring him. Where you are, in other words, he countered. More or less, she replied. Consider it done, Gabriel proclaimed dramatically.